Hey everyone, today we have Katelyn Richards talking about crafting a resume and also about the career coaching and recruiting and some tips about this. So let's hear out from Katelyn Richards about how do we create and craft a resume. Hi Katelyn, thank you for joining us at the Wise Dog podcast. So you started off with a recruiter and a career coach now. So let's start off with explain your journey for us. How did you start off with a recruiter and why did you end up as a career coach right now? What made you made this decision?
Yes, great question. Well, I'm excited to be here with you. So my career originally started in the world of higher education. And one of the things I got to do in my time at higher ed is I got to oversee some of the hiring processes for staff members, and I really enjoyed that. And so that kind of naturally then led me into the world of recruiting. Which is where I've spent the majority of my career. And what I loved about recruiting was I loved helping people get jobs at, companies that they were really excited about. And there was no better feeling really than getting to make the call and tell someone like, hey, you're the candidate and they're hiring you and they're making you an offer. And but the reality of working as a recruiter is that at the end of the day, you're actually working for the hiring managers, you're working for the companies that are doing the hiring. You're not actually working for the job seekers. And I just found that my heart was, hashtag team job seeker all the way. And so I did a little bit of, soul searching myself in the midst of COVID and decided that I just wanted to make that pivot and that shift into career coaching so that I could, kind of pull back that curtain for job seekers, help them really just see firsthand the strategies that were going to actually help them get hired and become the one that was going to get that phone call saying, "Hey, you
Yeah,
got the job."
great. I think that's a great pivot. But in a recruiter standpoint, your psychology is different about the way you look at the resume, and
Yeah.
in a career coach standpoint, it's probably more optimistic, and you will try to see how to help. Rather in recruiter, you will see what's wrong. So how did this affect during your pivot? Did this affect at all, or did the recruiter career help you to be a better career coach?
Oh, I absolutely think it helped me be a better career coach. I think the truth is I had a front row seat to the decisions that hiring managers were making and why they were choosing the specific candidates that they were choosing over other candidates, right? And
Uh-huh.
so, because of that, I'm able to now take that information and empower job seekers to say, here are the things that I saw firsthand are actually going to help give you that leg up. That are going to help you stand out from the other job seekers, and kind of give them some of that insider knowledge. So I definitely think working as a recruiter has made me a much stronger career coach because I've been on that other side, right?
Yeah, so now you receive a resume from a student or a job applicant, you'll be able to say what a career coach thinks and what a recruiter thinks on the other side. So it kind of helps you craft your profiles. So talking about
Yes.
resumes, and there are people are confused about. There are several ways to find a job. You ask somebody who's working in the company to refer you, or you do the networking in LinkedIn, which most people just ping saying that, hey, I like your profile. Can you please refer me? That to a stranger, which the stranger is going to say no. And there is
Right.
like LinkedIn job applications and Indeed. There are so many methods, and people just put all of their effort in all the methods just out of sheer desperation. What do
Yes.
you think, from your standpoint, is a best and organic way uh, to find a job?
Yeah. So I always like to tell my job seekers the best return on investment for your time, your energy, your effort is always going to be people. It's
Hmm.
always going to be tapping into connections, cultivating relationships, harnessing the power of people. And I saw this play out time and time again when I was working as a recruiter. The truth is, if someone
Hmm.
had a relationship or a connection established with people that already worked at the company, I, as the recruiter, would then be told, hey, you need to also interview this person. Hey,
Hmm.
you need to make sure that this person makes it through, to this point,
Yeah.
in the interview process. They almost kind of got to a little bit skip to the front of the line.
Uh-huh.
And it makes sense. Like the way we are wired as humans is that we are wired to choose things that feel more known, that
Yeah.
feels like the safer option, right?
Yeah.
Than over the unknown or the unfamiliar. And
Hmm.
so, if you can intentionally position yourself to be a known entity to the people that work at the companies that you are most excited about, you're naturally going to have a leg up on the competition. You just are. And just based on like it being a sheer numbers game and the volume of applications right now, it's the
Hmm.
best way to stand out and to also be able to give context to your story. The truth is a resume can only give us so much context, right?
Right.
Whereas conversation, it gives so much more nuance to your story, to a gap in your resume, to maybe a non-traditional background, whatever it might be. Conversation's always going to be better.
Right, right. Well, that's definitely a great option, I guess. Finding people whom trying to see in your network. But I think we are in a strange state of situation these days. People are graduating from online. They're starting their
Mhm.
careers off online. Long ago, definitely, at least 3, 4 years ago, people go to networking events in the school and
Yep.
outside the school. Now it's all just complete online.
Yeah.
So someone who so there are ways for people who have connections, yes, but there are for people who has no connections, and they literally have two options: LinkedIn and Indeed, and probably some more career search options. So for those specific people, I think the resumes and cover letters are like so key goal. So what do you think, as a recruiter, you saw some of the key mistakes which make you immediately press the reject button for that application? And what is the from career coach standpoint of view, when people approach you for working on
Mhm.
their profiles, how do you receive them? In what condition do you receive them? With typos and everything? So how is the initial resume you see?
Yeah, when it comes to my resume, I mean, there's a couple of things that you for sure need to be focusing on. I think most people feel like with their resume, it needs to be this recitation of everything they've ever done and capture all the information in one place. And oftentimes on the receiving end, as the recruiter, that would feel overwhelming, right? I would get to a
Mhm.
resume, and if it were just like paragraphs and pages worth of
Right.
information, I mean, our brain does not naturally absorb that. Our brain naturally rejects that.
Yeah.
So I am a huge fan of white space. I'm a huge fan that less is actually more when it comes to your resume.
Hmm.
We want to simply focus on not everything you ever did in a role, but what were your greatest achievements? What results did you cultivate?
Hmm.
As a student coming out of school, yeah, like in the organizations that you were a part of, what, not like what was like the title of the role or maybe the duties and responsibilities, but what did you achieve in that role, right? Like we want to highlight the way that we are able to elicit results. That's like the most important thing when it comes to a resume. And really the only goal of a resume, it's not going to land you a job.
Right.
The only goal is to elicit a conversation. We
Right.
just want someone to look at it and say, hey, I want to know more. I
Yeah.
want to talk to this person, right? And so I think when you go into it with that mindset and approach
Mhm.
it in that way, that is going to get you the best return um,
Yeah.
on your resume, right? And we also want to tailor it to the individual company, the individual role, and it that doesn't need to then be something that takes you an hour to do. I tell people it should only take you 5 to 10 minutes to tailor it, but make sure that you are aligning it with that specific company and that specific role.
A lot of people, when you said Taylor, right, a lot of people believe that one resume for all. They just have this one resume, they keep uploading it in all. uh, what do you want to tell those job applicants? What is one thing which you want to tell them, so that they stop doing that?
Yeah,
Or why should they stop doing that? Like, I have one
yeah,
resume which fits for most jobs. Why should I not upload everywhere?
yeah.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, what a recruiter or hiring manager is looking for, right?
uh,
They're looking for one thing. There is a reason why this role is open. They have a problem that they are trying to solve, and they
mhm.
need someone to come in and solve this problem. So the only thing they are looking for when it comes to your resume and cover letter is, can this person come in and solve our problem? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you approach your resume from that standpoint and recognize that it's not the same problem for every company, for every organization, even if it's the same role, like the same title,
Hmm.
that job looks a little bit different at different companies. It's always going to be nuanced. So use the job description. That is the answer key. It will tell you everything you need to know when it comes to why are they actually hiring for this role. And then it allows you to align your resume with what the job description is and be able to show, here's how I will come in and help you solve this problem.
Right. I think that's a great point. In Wise Talk, we approach a lot of students and we ask them, why do you have one resume and you're upload everywhere? Why can't you tailor it a little bit according to job description? And the most common answer we get is, I'm just gonna have too many files in my folder, and I'm lazy to find which one is the right fit for which job. So we immediately was like, oh wow, and apparently not many software do this. And we were working on some features we put forward for students to really tailor the resume faster, and seems to be it's helping the job search, to be honest.
That's
So
awesome. I love that.
yeah, and in the same line, stressing a bit more. So you said that if you tailor your resume according to the job description, because every job is slightly different, and if you tailor according to that, a recruiter may search in your resume that, oh, this guy is more fit. Maybe I should call him or her. And then, so if they are interested to know more, do you think a cover letter is going to be pushing a bit further for them to pick up the phone?
I here's what I love about cover letters. I have a love-hate relationship with them. But as a
Hmm.
recruiter, what I appreciated, it was an opportunity for a candidate to further expand and give me context on things on their resume that there might not be space for on the resume itself, especially when it comes to maybe a career pause, maybe it comes to that non-traditional background, maybe it comes to you have a totally different major or something that you studied in school, but now you're looking to get a job over here. Um, I like to call this like addressing the gap.
Hmm.
Anywhere that there is a gap between your experience and what the job description says, the cover letter is your chance to be able to name it head on, to own it. And that takes it from being a red flag to then just being like, oh, okay, well, now I have the background for it. So it's not a big deal, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And it's just another time, too, I think, to really, really clearly articulate your unique value proposition. What about you specifically is going to enable you to come in and help the company solve the problem they're trying to solve by hiring for this specific role? Now, I will say that I think a conversation and relationship will always trump a cover letter, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to time. If a recruiter or hiring manager is crunched for time, they might not read your cover letter, right?
Yeah.
And they're just going to take a quick look at your resume and yeah, the whole 6 to 12 second, statistics when it comes to like that's how long they spend on it. I mean, it's true. It is true that it's not very long. So
So you're saying basically, in a recruiter psychology standpoint, if you see a resume and if it feels like yes, this might be a fit, and if that has an attached cover letter, you will go through, and it might go in either direction after that, depending on how that is written, right?
yes.
Uh, but has it happened ever before that you found a resume which is not that completely fit for the job, but it had a cover letter attached? So you just, as a benefit of doubt, you read it anyway. Did that happen before?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I mean for I think that's the benefit of a cover letter is it allows you to give more context to the story. And certainly as a recruiter, I've had that change my mind, even on a candidate to be like, oh wow, okay, yeah, that thing that I thought was an issue is not actually an issue because they addressed it over here in the cover letter. It also helps you feel like you get to know that person just a little bit more. I mean, a resume is very formal. It's very, structured. A cover letter can be more fluid. It shows personality. It makes me feel like I am getting to know someone and their story just a little bit more.
So, switching gears a little bit, how is your style and approach for different areas will be? Is there a focused area of job applicants which you are like excelling at, like healthcare or medical or engineering? uh, which specific focus do you think you had the best success so far? And what was your style? How are you helping somebody with no idea how to search for a job, and then getting into a job saying that, okay, Caitlin got me this interview, what's your
Yeah.
style?
Yeah, those are great questions. So when I worked as a recruiter, I started off in the healthcare industry. But the recruiting firm I was working for then quickly expanded into all different industries. So I have recruited everything from, physicians to like a personal chef at one point, recruited people in the tech industry, marketing, I mean, really, you name it. So what's been fun for me as a career coach is I really have been able to be diversified on that front as well. I'm a firm believer in two things. Number one, job searching is really about sales.
Hmm.
You are the product that has immense value, and how you tell that story and how you really sell a company on that value has a lot to do with whether or not you're the person that gets chosen in the end. And I saw that play out as a recruiter in all of these different industries as well, and I was like, this is fascinating. This doesn't matter if it's a nurse practitioner, or if it's a salesperson over here, a sales consultant. Like, it's still like the person who's able to come in and really say, hey, here's how I'm going to help you solve this problem, and sells the company on it. They'd be like, yep, I want that person. So
Hmm.
the way that I work with job seekers has a lot to do with what I was talking about earlier in terms of where I really believe the best return on investment is for time, energy, and effort. And that has to do with cultivating relationships, connections, and having conversations with people at the companies that you are most excited about. Really, at the end of the day, what we do at Crafted Careers, the company that I started, is we essentially reverse engineer the process, and we
Hmm.
make you the recruiter of the companies that you want to work for. I'm just such a firm believer that our experience of fulfillment in our career really has more to do with who we work for and who we work with than it does the actual role that we're in. There's a lot more room for fluidness over here in terms of like what the day-to-day responsibilities are and still experiencing fulfillment than there is with the company. If the
Yeah.
company is out of alignment with what we need and with our values, and like the culture isn't the right fit or whatever it might be, our boss isn't good, we're not going to experience fulfillment, even if we're in our quote unquote dream role over here. And
Yeah.
so we work with job seekers to identify, number one, what is it you really need
Hmm.
from your next, career move and from the company itself. Who are those companies? And
Hmm.
then utilizing the strategy of how do we cultivate conversations with people working at those companies so that we can move you to the front of the line.
I see.
Um, yeah. So
That that's a great style. So let me give like a four scenarios and four situations, and
great.
tell me about how can you help this category of people, or
Yeah.
in this video, people who are watching this video, what suggestions can you give them? So first category goes to a student who is trying to go for an internship. The most
Mm.
number of rejections will be you don't have experience. We don't get a lot from interns, but student needs an internship as a work experience in the resume. So how can you help this student, and what suggestion can you give them right now?
Oh, yeah, great question. Yeah, I mean, I don't personally believe that going after an internship is any different than going after any other job that you're going to have, right?
Yeah.
For the rest of your career. It's going to be kind of the same approach, the same philosophy. The truth is there's going to be who knows how many applications for that exact same internship, right? At
Yeah.
that company. And so the best way, once again, for you to stand out is to put yourself out there and to reach out to people working at those companies, and ideally identifying the people who are going to be key decision makers
Hmm.
around the internship. So kind of knowing who that's going to be with, whatever team this internship is with. Who are those decision makers? Who's going to quote unquote be the hiring manager for the internship program? And reaching out to introduce yourself, to make your story be seen outside of simply the application process. Ideally being able to have some sort of conversation where you can share a little bit more about yourself, why you are passionate about this particular internship. And I have found that oftentimes sharing the why behind why that company,
Hmm.
why do you want to learn from that company, right?
Right, right.
That's ultimately what's going to help you stand out, because that's what a company really wants when they're choosing an intern. They're like, we want someone that
I see.
wants to be here.
Yeah,
because you
right.
could do an internship anywhere else.
Right. That's a great point.
Yeah.
The second
Yeah.
category we see is 1 to 3 year experienced. So a lot of interview questions for these category of people. One of the key ones is, hey, you only joined in the existing company for between 2 to 3 years. It's not so long. Why are you trying to switch? So the
Hmm.
situation from the applicant side is they don't like the work culture or the manager, something like that. But if they try to say that to the interviewer, they might feel it's going to be negative in the
Hmm.
interview. So what is the best way to respond to this? You Why are you switching the job without spending too many years in that position? What is the best way to respond to this question?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So, I will say that, the way I coach my job seekers on this is make it about the company that you're interviewing for. What we want to do is highlight what it is they have to offer that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be different than where you're at right now, right? I mean, truly nowadays it's very normal after 2 to 3 years to be looking to make some sort of shift, pivot, move. I think it's okay to name like, hey, like growth wise, I don't necessarily have the opportunity at my current company. I know at your company there's going to be ways that I can apply all these amazing things that I've learned, the value that I have to offer. I can come into this role, I can flourish, but I can also grow as an individual. And once again, kind of making it about that company itself and what you're seeing in them,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of that alignment, like what we talked about earlier, saying this is how that alignment is there. And giving that context oftentimes like takes that away from being like a red flag. And I am a firm believer that that's becoming less and less of a red flag, making a shift after 2 to 3 years. I think it used to be like, that's a job hopper. Now it's normal for people to have 12 to 15 jobs, at different companies throughout their career.
Right.
So, yeah,
Specifically while we are in the great resignation, right? So uh,
exactly. Yes.
well, couple more scenarios, because I think these are really key ones which people are trying to find answers constantly. So people with 5 to 10 year of experience and who are trying to change their work domain. So let's say somebody is in a data analyst kind of a position, and they really want to switch into probably something extreme. Let's say data analyst, okay, in healthcare, so that they can be part of this helping the pandemic situation. So somebody's trying to change their position from A to completely to B with 5 to 10 year experience before. All they have in the new position might be some courses or certifications, which these
Mhm.
days a lot of people have free courses and certifications from online.
Right.
So if they need to make a career change into a different career, they are not ready to start over from zero. So what do we do when you are in that
Mhm.
position? What can you suggest them?
Yeah. So this is actually the most common job seeker type that I currently work with.
Uh,
I would say like mid-career professionals that are looking to make some sort of significant pivot, transition, leap into something new. Oftentimes right now it's coming from education, wanting to move into, the tech industry or whatever it might be, in the midst of COVID. So, two things. Number one, a lot of this just has to do with simply how we tell your story,
mhm,
how we translate the experience that you do have and all of the incredible skills that you do bring to the table into the language, of this new industry. Because
mhm,
most of the time, there's a lot of skills that are very transferable, right?
mhm,
But it simply has to do with how we talk about them. And when we use like the old language from the old industry or, even an old company that we were at, that's not
mhm,
going to resonate with this new, target industry or new target companies that we're looking to be a part of. So we always want to use the target industry, target companies as that measuring stick for that alignment that we were talking about to show
mhm,
how we do match up. Number two, we then want to address any gaps head on. We just want to
mhm.
name them. I recognize, like, I am making this big pivot. I recognize I do not come from, a traditional background.
Right.
Just simply naming it and owning it goes such a long way, and just taking down any of the walls, the fears, the concerns that the hiring manager or the recruiter might have on the other end, right? And then number three, it comes all the way back. I know I'm like a broken record here, but to that relationship building. Being able to have these conversations outside of the interview process is incredibly powerful. Having that chance to tell your story, to give the why behind
Mhm.
why you're making this transition, why you're looking to pivot. It just empowers the other person on the other end,
Mhm.
to have that full context, and it just totally dissipates any concerns, fears, red flags that they might have.
Right. I think that's a great point. Most people, when they say that, hey, you don't have the experience, why are you trying to switch the position? They immediately might go defensive that, no, I got some certifications. But the part you say is recognize that, yes, I do not have that experience and I want to start with my passion. And that might go a long way, is what you're saying. I think that's a great point, Caitlin. Um, I'll quickly go
Well,
to
and
the last. Yeah.
I was just going to give a quick example, because when I pivoted from recruiting to career coaching, the
Uh-huh.
company I started doing career coaching for, they wanted someone who had experience in career coaching. I didn't have that. So what I did was I named it. I said, I have not been a career coach before, but here's what I have done. I have worked with job seekers on this other front, and I've, looked at resumes and LinkedIn
Uh,
profiles and all of these things. And like naming that helps them say, oh, you're right. It doesn't matter you haven't been a career coach because you've done these other things. So
right,
anyway,
right.
just for example.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. A last quick scenario. I think I'm not sure how many people fit into it, but we do hear a question a lot. So people with 55 to 60 years of age, with like
Mhm.
30, 40-year experience, uh, the straight rejection is, oh, you're too old, because
Mhm.
the technology we have is new. I don't think it's fit. They might not say directly that you're too old, but the better way, the elegant way to say is, oh, the technology we have is pretty new. We need people who think in the recent generation, something like that. So what is your suggestion? Because they have like 10 more years of work time left at least
Yes.
before they retire, and they get a lot of rejections specifically from these giant companies. So how do they proceed with their
Yeah.
career change at that level?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. I just helped my father-in-law, who falls into this category, with making a career pivot. And one of the things, we talk about was, uh, in some ways, I mean, it's upskilling, but it's not. I mean, we want to tangibly be able to prove, no, here is how I'm staying current in the midst of my industry and the things that are going on, right? Once again, it's simply giving context, because otherwise assumptions get made.
Hmm.
And this happens, at all ages and stages of career transitions. When you're first starting out, assumptions get made about that. If you're making a pivot in the middle, assumptions get made about that. If you're towards the end of your career, assumptions are made about that, right?
Hmm.
So a lot of this is simply helping just give nuance to your story, to your experience, to the things you are doing on your end that might be assumed differently otherwise, right? And
Yeah.
once again, relationship is always going to be the best context to do this in. Conversation is always going to be the most powerful way to be able to
Uh-huh.
name it up front, to even just be able to say, hey, I get it. I got 10 years left in my career, but here's why I'm really excited to make this transition. Here's why I believe I would be the right fit for your company. Here's how I can come in and help you solve this problem. And at that point, all the rest, they don't care about it anymore.
I
Right?
see.
If you're going to be the person to help them solve the problem, they don't actually really care about what age and stage you're at in your career.
So it looks like, regardless of which category you belong to, I think the key part to address with resume, cover letter, interview, or connection, whatever the methods it is, the key part to address is, how can I bring the value to your company, regardless of where you are? That seems to be
Yes.
the key point which you want to emphasize.
Yes.
Uh, Great, great. And a couple things to talk about. If you want to give a one-line suggestion to, regardless of any position, any category, anything else, what is your one-line suggestion going to be?
Yeah, for any job seeker.
Hmm.
I mean, my major thing that I want to empower all job seekers to know is, number one, you got to get really clear on where it is that you want to go for any other job search strategy to fall into place. And you want to make sure that the companies that you are going after are going to be the ones that are a good fit for you, right?
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to make sure they align with your values and what you need, and they're going to pay you what you're worth. And, it's going to be the type of culture that you want to be a part of, where you're going to be seen and valued. So I think
Great.
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's a great point, because now when I find it relatable, I was trying to recruit someone the other day, and the initial my first question was, what are you looking for in my company? You're looking for more money, more experience, like what are you looking for? And after all the interview goes, when the candidate does not accept the position, so it feels like, okay, you don't know what you want. I think that's a very key point you mentioned. You need to know what you want, and then you
Yep.
start a job search.
Yep.
um, that's a great point. And one last thing, Caitlin, is a lot of people might find this story relatable by watching when they watch this video. So if they want to take your help and your service, what is the best way to reach? Is there an email or a website or a LinkedIn? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, I mean, I hang out on LinkedIn basically all day, every day. So the best place to find me is to follow Katelyn Richards, Crafted Careers on LinkedIn. I do have a website, www.crafted.careers. And yeah, would be happy to talk with anyone that's looking for help, especially when it comes to their job search strategy and who's looking to expedite the process.
Great, great. That's a great point. Thanks a lot, Caitlin. I think this is you give a lot of suggestions to a varied amount of people, from beginners to all the way to 60-year-old people.
Yeah.
And I can certainly not say that you are focused on to one specific thing, but but you seem to have a lot of success with a very vast amount of fields, the healthcare to industry to several areas. So
Yeah,
that's a great suggestions. Thank you for your time, and
you're
I
so
hope
welcome.
people watching the video can approach you via LinkedIn. Um,
Yes, I would love that. Well, thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure.
yeah, thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching the podcast, and I hope the tips provided by Caitlin will be very helpful for your job search and resume creation. So, if you need additional services, feel free to reach out to Caitlin in LinkedIn, as well as if you need professional resumes and cover letters for job applications, please go to wisetalk.net and create the best resumes which can get you interview calls. Thank you so much, and please hit the subscribe button.